I know that's hard for people, like, in terms of, like, when you're transitioning and, I mean, there's something weird about being like, oh, this is my name now, and you feel like a kook. You're like, oh, play along with my kooky game. And there's something powerful on one hand, like, it's terrifying to ask somebody to, like, change how they've thought about you, how they referred to you, changing, just their whole syntax around you. And it was really, really meaningful to me, like, the people who, like, were some of the first people who were like, we're gonna call you Scott. It's time. I know, and because it was really hard for me to ask them to do that. And so I was just sort of waiting, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it's time to involve you in my drama, But they were really supportive, and they sort of brought me forward. It's like my sister, who's unbelievable, when I, told her, I was going by Scott and using male pronouns, it was hard for her to change how she referred to me and referred to me as her brother and all of these things. And the thing she would do, she would be talking to me, and in the course of conversation, she'd be sort of relaying a narrative and then say, to say my old name and then she would stop and she would say, I did that wrong. And she would go back the beginning of the sentence and she would do it over, she would do it over with the right pronoun and with the right name. And like that, I mean, she didn't go to a training. She didn't have any, this was just like, she was like, oh, I need to do that right. And it was brilliant, and I suggest it to everybody because it is hard, especially if somebody who's like really, a child or a parent, somebody who's been a part of your life as that person forever. And I think on one hand, yeah, that's hard, and on the other hand, people change their names all the time. Hello, how many people get married and change their names? And how often do, like, friends and coworkers just make the change? We do. We have it programmed, and we've learned how to do it. And people don't get all weird. They're like, oh, you got married, I'll call you by your new name. And they don't say things like, oh, I'm sorry, it's just hard for me. I'll always just see you as Miss Smith. You just have to let me. And people aren't like, oh, okay. Like, people are like, what? No, I changed my name, just deal. Like, just do it. It's not that I didn't expect that it would be hard for people, and that was why it was hard for me to ask them to do that. But, like, that's one of the things I recommend when people are like, but it's so hard to change. And I'm like, yes, it is hard to change. But that doesn't mean you don't have to do it. And, like, the best way to do something that's hard is to practice.